Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at homework 3. So in this problem, we are given the mole fraction of some components here. So in this case, water, propylene, and isopropanol. So these are going to be x1, x2, x3, and this is just going to be a mixture of 3 components. Um, and what we want to look at here is that instead of putting these in terms of the molar flow, what am I trying to say? The mole fractions of each component, which would be x1, x2, x3, there's a way where we can kind of convert this into using v's. So for x1, x2, x3, we would have v1 and v2. You basically always have one less v than x, because once you have, in this case, once you have two x's, you can just subtract them from 1 to get your third x, since they need to add up to equal 1. So we're just going to be looking at how do we get this x in terms, or how do we solve for v in terms of x? Because right now, if we have our v's, we can get our x. But we want to know if we have our x's, how do we find out what our v's are? So go over here. So we want to go from x to v. So if we're just looking at one component, we can start out by writing this out. We'll have x1 equals e to the v1 divided by 1 plus, and then this summation is going to be e to the v1 plus e to the v2. It's just going to be all of our e's. Now, I think from here it's pretty obvious that we just want to take the natural log of this entire thing. So we'll have here natural log of x1 equals natural log of e to the v1 divided by natural log of 1 plus e to the v1 plus e to the v2. And now what we're going to do is we are going to multiply this denominator over to the left side of the equation, and then we're going to use rules of logarithms to basically add these together. So we'll be adding these natural logs together on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, that's going to be equal to natural log of e to the v1 is going to be equal to v1. So we can write this as v1 equals the natural log of x1 plus the natural log of this big thing here. Okay, so right now we kind of have it, we're going in the right direction, but we still have this right here. We want to get rid of this v1 and this v2. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to come in and say what happens if we basically include our x2 as well. So if we have x1 plus x2, that's going to be equal to, and again, we're just going to use this up here. We're going to be adding together these fractions, because in the case of x2, this would be x2 equals e to the v2 over the exact same denominator. So this is going to be e to the v1 plus e to the v2 over that same denominator, to the v1 plus e to the v2. Now actually what we see here is that this e to the v1, e to the v2 appears in the numerator and the denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a substitution just to simplify things a little bit, make it easier to understand. We're going to say this equals u. So now we have u over 1 plus u. And I'm also going to say that x1 plus x2, we're just going to call that x. x1 plus x2 equals x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solve this for u. So we would multiply this x plus xu u minus this u equals, I believe it would be x over 1 minus x. It's going to be our u. Is that correct? Because we would add that. Yeah, this should be correct. Okay, so we figured out what u is. So we're just going to plug this in for our u right here. So we're going to have v1 equals the natural log of x1 plus the natural log of 1 plus, this is going to be u, so we'll just substitute this in, and I'm going to go ahead and write x1 plus x2 back in. So x1 plus x2 over 1 minus x1 plus x2 and I believe this is our solution. So we took v and put it in terms of x1 and x2. So if we know all three of our x's, which we do up here, we can take this as x1, this is x2, this is x3. Well, I guess we would only have one. This third x doesn't exactly matter because it's just the summation. It's just 1 minus the summation of these other x's. So this would give us v1, and then v2 would just be the natural log of x2 plus this entire thing. We just bring this down. And that would give us our v1 and v2. So knowing our x's, we can get our v's. So yeah, that's basically all we have for homework 3. It's just one big algebra problem. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.